Good morning, Louisa. How are you? Happy Sunday. Hope you're going well. In case you don't know me, David Johnson's my name, and absolutely delighted to be helping Louisa out making a quick video for her channel and her subscribers. I'm delighted Louisa, that you even bothered to ask me to make this video for you. I'll try to answer some of the questions that you're interested in as succinctly as possible. Don't want to drag it on too long. It's Sunday morning, of course, and just there's a car walking down my street here in Brisbane. Done a bit of a training session this morning, hence the no shirt. Pretty hot, but it's been a good session for a Sunday anyway. But I suppose you're interested in what we do in our day-to-day lives, and a big part of my life is dealing with people, and I am a neurosurgeon. I carry out brain and mostly spinal neurosurgery. Been doing that for the better part of 20 odd years, and yeah, it's a huge part of my life and it's taught me a lot. I suppose I'm always learning, and in the last 5 or 6 years I think my practice has changed very much from a focus of fixing up people who are broken and leaning towards trying to prevent people getting broken in the first place. Clearly, people who come to see me have symptoms, mainly of pain and disability related to their spine, and it sort of dawned on me about 5 or 6 years ago that the industry as a whole is doing a pretty bad job at addressing the cause for why people get broken, for why people get symptoms. The industry is very, very good at addressing symptoms and mending up the damage, but when it comes down to training people or teaching people how to not get damaged in the first place, the industry is pretty poor at that. And when it comes to musculoskeletal health and joints, and the spine is no exception to that, we have to ask ourselves what the primary function of a joint is, of the multiple joints within the spine. What is their primary function? And their primary function is movement, and hence if you have corrupted movement, then the joint will be unhealthy, and an unhealthy joint causes pain and disability and can manifest in many ways, either back pain, neck pain, or neurological pain. So it really dawned on me that the industry is and has been and is currently very much neglecting the fundamental elements of good movement or proficient movement. So a huge part of my practice now it has been directed towards improving the way people move. And it sounds very simple, that such a focus could make a difference, but what I've learned from observation, from experience over the last 20 years, is that very, very simple philosophy of training people to move better has a profound effect on their musculoskeletal health. And I think that simplicity of that approach is what makes it work, because by making people move better and understand proficient movement versus poor movement, and defining what proficient movement is to them, allows them to integrate really good movement into their daily life activities, and hence their daily life activities becomes their rehabilitation. They're not going out to do a specific rehabilitation class or do their rehabilitation exercises. They're just moving in life. And I coined the term the sport of life some time ago. And if you're good at the sport of life, then you'll be healthy. And the sport of life really means I'm moving well in my my daily life activities. So, what did that lead to once I had that little light bulb moment? I developed with a fantastic team, of course, including my wonderful wife Joanne, who really runs the nuts and bolts of all of our rehabilitation services. We developed the Functional Movement Training Centre, which was a layer on top of my surgical practice, which is City to Coast Neurosurgery. We developed the Functional Movement Training Centre. We developed our rehab program, our spinal rehab program called NEUROHAB, because we're rehabilitating the nervous system motor patterns that dictate how well you move. And then from there, our patients transformed with physiological certainty. They transformed into athletes. So we then embraced CrossFit, and we developed a gym in Wollongabba called Crossfit Neuro, which is populated by amazing people, a lot of them being my own patients. And one of the most fantastic moments of my everyday life is getting out there, doing my movement training or my functional movement training with a patient that I would recall, several months back, sitting in my consult room with me, describing their life as being really uncomfortable, unhappy, dependent on analgesics, unable to engage in quality life activities, even working. And then next minute, several months later, with that consistency, them training next to me, doing a relatively high intensity functional movement workout. And that's sort of the essence of CrossFit, really. CrossFit is high intensity functional movements, constantly varied, always creating some stimulus to your body, and that stimulus is what creates that physiological adaptation and athleticism, so to speak. So that's what we do day in, day out. That's what we focus on for our patients. Of course, many patients come to us a little bit late, and they do need the symptomatic management. So I'm in surgery 2 days a week, decompressing spinal cords, decompressing nerves, stabilizing joints with nuts and bolts and bone graft infusions, and replacing discs. But that's really the sad part of my work, is helping these patients that have come a little bit late and not received the message from the industry early enough, such that they've reached a point where they need to have that symptomatic treatment. But guess what happens after they've had that surgery? They must then restore their movement proficiency. Otherwise, that surgery won't work. They'll still have pain and disability, even though they've had expensive, dangerous surgery. That surgery won't work, and they'll attribute their failure to a failed surgery. And in fact, it's not a failed surgery. It's a failure of effective rehabilitation. You can't continue to move poorly after a spinal surgery and expect that you won't have ongoing pain and disability, because the poor movement is what broke your spine down in the first place. So naturally and logically, you've got to eliminate the cause of what got you there in the first place. So that's about it in a nutshell, anyway. I'm sorry the video's gone a little bit longer than I'd expected, but once you get me talking about this stuff, I tend to keep going. You asked a couple of other questions. Who would I invite to dinner if I had that amazing opportunity, whether they were dead or alive? There's so many people, but like in this current climate, I think I'd invite some of the best critical thinkers and independent thinkers in the world, particularly when it comes to global health. And of course the biggest global health concern, pressing concern at the moment, that's destroying many lives, is SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, coronavirus. I would invite someone like Ivor Cummins, who's an amazing critical thinker, a data analyst and objective, has no political agenda. I'd invite someone like him, Ivor Cummins. He's alive and well today. Spoken to him a couple of times on social media. An amazing fellow, and really has the ability to dig deep into root cause analysis, okay? And causation has to be understood really innately to make a difference, causation. So Ivor Cummins, look him up, is an amazing fellow. And then YouTube's probably the best place. I think in terms of yesteryear, I'd invite one of the great scientists of our time, you know, someone like Isaac Newton, just an amazing brain. How he, you know, and I'm very fundamental science orientated, how he was able to just, in a period with very little technology, put together the most eloquent mathematical equations that described the physical world, that, you know, the observation of a ball dropping, the observation of something rolling down the slope, and understanding velocity, acceleration, gravity. Just, it's mind-blowing, and we can learn it from textbooks and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. But the way that it's just so beautifully come together and explains everything that we see in the physical natural world, and then we can apply that into modern technology. It's just incredible. Someone like that. And then maybe I'd have to split it between, I've met these two people, so I'd love to have dinner with them again. I would probably invite someone like Professor Tim Noakes. Professor Tim Noakes, who is a medical sports doctor in South Africa, and he's also founded the NOAKES Foundation and the Nutrition Network, and I consider him to be one of the pioneers of modern nutrition science. And he was really able to break the mold of the current, not break the mold, but was able to introduce the understanding of the modern diabetes, obesity epidemic. You know, how is it that the world can reach 2/3 of obesity or overweight, poor health, overweight, 2/3 of the world with affluent, empty calories, you know, malnourished but calorie rich, and despite all of the increasing scientific exploration and investigation into health, how is it that we just got more and more unhealthy? And really put on the map the model of insulin resistance, and he made these assertions despite previously being in the camp that was pro carbohydrate, and he himself became unhealthy and was able to put that aside and unlearn all of the science that he'd been advocating. And I think that's a really noble trait, to be able to say, look, I was wrong, and not only that, but then continue to assert this positive influence on the world and get your message out, which is very difficult in this day and age, getting your message out, because there's just so much media. So that would be 3 people that I'd love to have over for dinner, including, of course, my good friends and family, which would be the first invitees, of course. Gotta stay close to family, and that's the most favourite part of my day, is hanging out with the fam. Just love hanging out with the fam, so that's number one. Alright, I think you've heard enough from me, David Johnson, signing out. I'll hope to meet you all one day, and anytime you want to drop in and see us at Crossfit Neuro or Functional Movement Training Centre, just give us a call. We're in Wollongabba. Alright, take care, bye.